part of something bigger.
What's up, guys? Dabu7 back at you again. We've got America's most powerful banker telegraphing, I believe, the event that's about to happen. If you look at what he says and you read between the lines, he's dropping all the signals and all the warnings that a big event's about to happen. He doesn't do this in a way that's going to cause a lot of people to panic. He does it in a nonchalant way because that's how they have to do it, but he gets it out there and the point is made. He starts off by saying that we should be investing in bullets, in tanks, drones, all this type of stuff. That's where this whole thing starts. But then, out of nowhere, he says there's going to be a crack in the bond market. And he says, I don't know if it's going to be 6 months or if it's going to be within 6 years. But it's going to happen. Now, he goes on to say that his friends tell him that, oh, we love a crisis and all this, which is the elite do. They never let a good crisis go to waste. But this one's going to be different. I'm telling you, it's going to directly affect the bank. He don't like what's coming. He told his friends, not really. Not all crises are good. Because this time, what he really can't tell you flat out is that banks are going bye-bye. They will no longer be needed. As soon as this transition into the digital realm is complete and they do away with fiat, they just stop printing the pennies, minting them. Nickel is next up on the chopping block. Within a couple years, all the change is just going to be wiped out. And they're telling businesses to round up. So this is going to cause everything that you buy to be rounded up. It's going to start with rounding up 5 cents, and then since the nickel's gone, rounding up 10 cents. When that's gone, rounding up more, and this is going to continue. And there seems to be this event that's on the horizon that we know is in the works. We know that it's going to happen on Trump's card. And he goes on to say, after saying that he don't know if it's going to be 6 months or 6 years, he says, we probably deserve this or need this to happen to wake us up. That we're going to need this for this transition. And see, he's not going to like that. Why? Because he's the head of a bank. The banks, the way that we know them, the way that they operate, will cease to exist. They won't be the same. He's going to be retired here in not too long. And he just sold $33 million of his shares, which is another signal. He flashed another signal as Warren Buffett retires and steps into the shadows with a record amount of cash. All the signs are there that a huge market event, I call it the economic 9/11, is about to take place. Definitely on Trump's watch, and I think sooner than later. And that's why I've been warning about the whole 401k thing. Don't get your money trapped in there. They're going to take it all. It's what I call the great taking. It's all one massive event that these higher up dudes know about. It's just, this time, it's not going to benefit him because his whole industry is getting wiped out. Or changing, so to speak. The brick and mortar banks, as you know it, man, won't exist. There won't be no need for it. When they transition all the way to digital, which is what the event is designed to do, I'm going to say it could probably fall back here on China. They're embedded within all of our stuff. Everything. Christopher Wray said this on the way out the door, and Dan Bongino and Cash Patel, garbage. They ain't doing nothing about it. Meanwhile, China owns all this land right next to our bases. It's a setup. This is a setup. Don't you ever forget it. But they need this. They need this to happen. They're all on record saying it. They need this transition to happen. So I expect they're going to hold people's money hostage in the banks, and the answer is going to be their digital wallet, and they'll have everything that they want. It may not even be all that stressful because they're going to supply the fix quickly and just tell people, get this wallet. So, look, man, I covered this in greater detail in the live streams. Join me there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, where I got time to talk about this in greater detail. I hope to see you guys there.
just got the notice, man. Wells Fargo is going to be closing down all its banks in the U.S. come June. So if you got a Wells Fargo account, man, I suggest that you close your account because Wells Fargo, all Wells Fargos in USA will be closing down. Sorry, Wells Fargo customers. This news just came to me, and I'm giving it to you. So yeah, if you got a Wells Fargo bank account, I suggest you close your account right now, baby.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 15, verse 16, in the NLT. And it says, "Take from Babylon all those who plant crops. Send all the harvesters away because of the sword of the enemy. Everyone will run away and rush back to their own lands." First and foremost, as always, in the Lashon Kadash is in the Holy Tongue, being the Paleo Hebrew is in the ancient Hebrew. I'm going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom was the God of the living, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barach, Chodash, which is all praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, whom was our strength and our Redeemer, and our light and our salvation. In the same tongue, I'm Adamashana Kabwadium, Laha Sequanium, Shal Gadawaraka, meaning double honors to the apostles and elder bishops, Great Millstone, and Shalom, honors and salutations to Bayashad Awadah, meaning the house of David, of the 1/3 elect remnant of the nation of Israel, along with the rest of the 1/3 elect men, women, and children of Israel. And this is your fellow servant Malak Rayab, back at it again with another lesson through the spirit of prophecy, being a testimony of our Lord and Savior, Hamashiach Yahushai, who the masses of the world ignorantly refers to Jesus Christ. All right, and this is another famine update. All right, regarding the the inevitable famine of America, Babylon the Great. All right, modern day Rome. Repeating history of just as Rome fell, America will fall. All right, in a famine sense, through the economy collapsing. By way of Esau, Edom's Hegelian dialectic. All right, the whole concept associated with order out of chaos. Which going into what Dabu 7 had mentioned, quoting Winston Churchill. All right, mixed up his name. All right, well, he had quoted Winston Churchill. All right, who's known for the quote, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." Basically, presenting the concept of a crisis. Despite the dire challenges of certain crises, presenting opportunities for quote unquote significant change and progress. All right, in this particular significant change and progress within a demented perspective of Esau, Edom, the subclane white man, whom was the devil the Bible speaks of, is this satanic NWO within this transition from this current monetary system, this plummeting monetary system, all done by design, to this new totalitarian dystopian technocracy where everyone's lives is regulated through the mark of the beast, being that microchip, through this AI interface. All right, the mark of the beast infrastructure. All right, so this is this is what JP Morgan, the JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon was referring to when he said when he suggested that this change, this change could be good for us. Okay, for this particular transition that he was talking about, being that satanic NWO. All right, which is why Warren Buffett had, taken, removed his money from the stock market. Okay, cashing out, which I'm about to go ahead and get into momentarily, because these devils are being prudent. Okay, because they being cunningly aware. Okay, but wearing, the danger coming to this place economically. Okay, resulting in civil unrest due to a scarcity of resources fueled by racial tension, or including these sleeper cell agents of these various heathen nations, okay, crossing the border, okay, waiting to be activated, by their handlers, on behalf of these puppet masters, on behalf of the Zionist international crime banking families, okay. Giving them their green light, these sleeper cell agents of these foreign nations crossing the border, currently in America, okay, from China, Iran, Turkey, wherever, and wherever else they may be from, Sudan, and so forth, all right, to be activated, Okay, as a part of the United Nations, Gurkha troops, the blue helmets, so to say. All right, along with thermonuclear missiles. All right, destroying this place. So this is the impending danger that JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon is anticipating, because he's an insider. So he was encryptedly, explaining these things to come. All right. Which is why he's in the spirit of transitioning from an agricultural farming standpoint to a war standpoint, going into the precept in Jeremiah 50:16. All right, where it mentioned, we went into that. All right, the transition, between planting crops, okay, and putting down that harvesting tool, that plowshare, and picking up a sword. So plowshare is a farming tool. So basically, being that crops, in the sense of farming, is symbolic of abundance, just like money. Okay, these insiders, such as these bankers and so forth, all right, and these politicians, these corrupt politicians, see the writings on the wall, these financiers and so forth. All right, so they're taking the money out of the stock market, they're investing the money in things, pertinent for their salvation. I mean, it's not salvation, their survival rather. For salvation is only for Israel, so Salaki for the slip of the tongue, but so this is the spirit that they're in, because they see war on the horizon. Okay. So this is, let's go back to this article on Zero Hedge entitled "Big Bank Boss Urges America to Stockpile Bullets, Not Bitcoin." JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon argued at the inaugural Reagan National Economic Forum in California that the U.S. should stockpile guns, ammunition, and drones rather than Bitcoin. We should stockpile guns, bullets, tanks, planes, drones, rare earths. We know we need to do it. It's not a mystery, Dimon said, referencing President Trump's executive order in March that established a Bitcoin reserve. Dimon is by now well known for his disapproval of cryptocurrencies, even though his own bank now allows clients to trade them, which should come as no surprise, since the concept of sovereignty in democratizing finance is the nemesis of the established trust us with your cash regime of banking rent seekers, quote, all right, or concept. It says we should be stockpiling bullets, he continued. Like, the military guys tell you that, if there's a war in the South China Sea, we have missiles for 7 days. Okay, come on. I mean, we can't say that with a straight face and think that's okay, because, war is extensive, and this devil understands that. Okay. That's why, World War II went on for like 4 years. Okay, this current war, this proxy war in Ukraine has been going on for, 3.5 years now. Okay, so war is heavy business, and it's extensive. All right, it's very time consuming and it's exhausting. Resources through the money, okay, to stockpile weapons. So that's what he meant when he said, he gave the example of going to war with South China Sea and only having missiles for 7 days, emphasizing the significance of stockpiling ammunition for the times coming. All right, because these devils know what time it is. But they're going to encryptedly, for the most part, they're going to encryptedly, express this dire warning, to not raise, not to, incite too much fear in the hearts of these reprobates in the world that have spiritually, mentally invested in America, Babylon the Great. Okay, so you say, so we know what to do. We just got to now go about doing it. Get the people together, roll up our sleeves, have the debates. All right, it says a sweeping discussion covered everything from the domestic U.S. economy to how the world's tectonic plates are shifting in geopolitics in the forms of wars, proxy terrorists, and the potential proliferation of nuclear weapons. Dimon underscored during his address that he does not view China as America's top adversary, and instead pointed his attention to the enemy within that could lead to the U.S. losing its status as the world's leader. All right, going into the growing turmoil and mayhem and strife and contention, by way of these war provocations, okay, through the trade wars and proxy wars, okay, which will further, which eventually lead into, this inevitable economic collapse, being that America's economy is well over $34 trillion in debt, okay, which cannot possibly be paid off, done by design, okay. So this place is going to collapse, and it's going to result in civil unrest, fueled by racial tension, calling for martial law, all right, resulting in mass death, all right, through mass casualties, before, these foreign nations, wreak their havoc on these U.S. civilians, these modern-day Babylonians. All right, so this is all of what Jamie Dimon is referring to. Okay, so he said, I'm not, let me see. He said, I'm not as worried about China, Dimon said. China is a potential adversary. They're doing a lot of things well. They have a lot of problems, but what I really worry about is us. Why is China a vocal point of this conversation in that interview? Because China is one of the foreign nations we get a lot of our imports from. So these trade wars that have been mainly geared towards China is self-sabotage, in terms of America's well-being. Because this economic collapse is all being orchestrated purposely for this transition, okay, that J.P. Morgan had referenced, as being good for us, quote unquote, good for the transition, okay, through the whole concept of never let a good crisis go to waste. You see, so he said, can we get our own act together, our own values, our own capability, our own management? Now we'll go ahead and revisit that last comment in a second. All right. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and get this next precept. Let me see. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51 and verse 13, and it says, O thou that dwellest upon many waters. We're going to read Jeremiah 15:16 again in the NLT. It says, take from Babylon all those who plant crops, send all the harvesters away. Because of the sword of the enemy, everyone will run away and rush back to their own lands. All right. Because the writing's on the wall that America's collapsing. All right. And how it would be, foolish to continue to invest in this place, especially financially. All right. That's why, Dabu 7 was talking about the vanity of keeping money in 401k, because they're going to take, Esau's going to take all that shit because he's a covetous niggard. Okay. This is Jeremiah 51 and 13. And it says, in the King James Version, O thou that dwellest upon many waters, all right, he's in many governments, as it says in Revelation 17 and 15, revealing these waters, as, nations of, nations, these various nations, okay, ran by these foreign leaders, these modern day kings of these heathen nations. All right. It says, O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. All right. Through Esau's petrodollar, he's been dominating international markets for years. Okay. But now that the petrodollar is losing its global traction, all about Esau's, wicked contributions of being a covetous niggard and a conniver, habitual liar, a scoundrel, all right, a manipulator. Okay, people are starting to lose trust in his credibility. Okay, so that's why a lot of these other nations are contemplating continuing international business dealings with America, and this is all a part of the stain on the glory of Babylon on behalf of Esau, Edom. All right. And this is why this place is plummeting. So this is Ecclesiastes 12 and 3. And it says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and grinders are laborers, workers. Okay. Employees, which really essentially means slaves. It says, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. Okay. Because of these layoffs due to this economic downturn we're facing through this modern day Great Depression. It was really a this current recession. Okay, it'll be like a modern day Great Depression. Okay, this economic, as he said, 911 event. Case in point. So it says, so it says, and those that look at it, the windows be darkened. All right, because of these, once again, these layoffs, these bank foreclosures, these furloughs. All right. In the sense of pestilence through the CV, because they're going to bring back they're going to use the whole approach of the demic again. In case in point, there was a new new pestilence report of the C to the C to the V to the 19 over there in UK. So eventually, they're going to bring back these face covering measures, requirements, mandating them again. Solid part approach is shutting down this place. All right, and this is why the window is going to be darkened. All right, including these bankruptcies because of this economic downturn here, mainly in America, Babylon the Great. Ecclesiastes 12:4, and the door should be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. All right, so the door should be shut in the streets when the sound of grinding is low. No more laboring. All right, much further, by way of AI machines taking over a lot of these factory jobs, retail jobs, and just jobs in general in the job market. Okay, so this is all a part of the downfall of America, Babylon the Great, that are part of the writings of the wall that these insiders can see, such as J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon. Okay. This is why the whole vibration of folly and mirth and commerce and capitalism, is failing in this place. Because there's no more room for mirth and folly and prosperity in America, Babylon the Great, but rather survival. Because that's the times we're living in, all right, through the spirit of prophecy. So, speaking of keepers of the house, let me get this quick parable in St. Luke 16:8, and also in the NLT. It says the rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. Okay, shrewd is a synonym for prudent. All right. It says, and it is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of light. So basically, while the masters in Yahushua didn't approve of the conduct of this unjust steward, this keeper of the house of the rich man, his rich master, okay, by being guilty of embezzlement, all right, basically defrauding, being a thief in his master's house, the master, being the rich man, while the master didn't, within this parable that Yahushua is presenting, although the master, the rich man, didn't approve of the conduct of his unjust steward, the deceitful keeper of his house, he commended the unjust steward for being more wise and bold in his management than the children of light, in terms of, when you read up in the parable, the unjust steward was once again, guilty of embezzlement, keeping back money, okay, behind his master's back. And when he got caught and was getting ready to get released from relieved from his duties for being deceitful, being an unjust steward, keeping back all that money, what he did to cover his ass is find the debtors of his master and, reduce the amount of debt that, these debtors owed his master, okay, to get in good graces with them later, when they would see him out and about, because he knew he was going to be getting ready to get relieved from his duties. So that was another example of him dealing prudently, dealing wisely and boldly in a sense of management, wise management, in a prudent sense, being shrewd in his business or management dealings. Case in point. Okay. So the master referring to the rich man is really a parable referring to Yahushua. Okay. Pointing out how, the unjust steward, right, these thieves of this world, okay, mainly dealing with Esau, Edom, the epitome of thieves, okay, deal more shrewdly, okay, in terms of business management and different similar dealings of life than the children of light do. And the children of light are Israelites, specifically the leadership of Israel. And that's why verse 9, to add on to that context, we get that in St. Luke 16:9 and NLT. It says, here's a lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then when your earthly possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. So it's basically Yahushua is transferring the principle of this parable, all right, through the concept of comparing and contrasting, the difference of one using their carnal resources in this world to plan ahead, such as our 401k, taking advantage of the stock market, investing in, the college fund for their children, for their financial, secure their financial future. Okay. As in, as a comparison, to, one using their spiritual resources to plan for the kingdom of heaven, you see, because, St. Matthew 6:19 speaks about treasures stored up in heaven that robbers and thieves will not be able to break through and steal, roughly paraphrasing, you see. So he's using this parable to compare and contrast the difference between one using their carnal resources to plan ahead in his future, okay, with those who would use their spiritual resources, all right, through through faith, praying, fasting, reading, charity, okay, part of the supplications of the Spirit to further build up their treasures in heaven, which weighs more, which holds more weight, okay, than for the purpose of planning for the kingdom of heaven. So having all that been said, the whole parable of the unjust steward, okay, is a unjust housekeeper, okay, such as the case of JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon being an unjust housekeeper, okay, but even he, was shrewd enough to understand that it was wise to use his resources to plan ahead in a carnal sense by stockpiling bullets, as he said, okay, preparing for this onslaught that's getting ready to really befall America. Even though it's not, and those who think like that are not going to be saved because they're naturally carnal-minded individuals. Okay, but at least they're still commended for dealing shrewdly, even though their efforts are not going to save them. Okay, further confirming that these individuals, mainly dealing with the Edomites, have this mindset. Okay, which makes them, which has made them wiser than the children of light, like it says in Ezekiel 28:3. All right, how he is wiser than Daniel, right, referring to the king of Tarsus. All right, a wealthy, a ruler. All right, so in a modern day sense, that wealthy ruler that's wiser than Daniel on the left hand side is Esau Edom, operating with shrewdness, prudence. Okay, all right, preparing ahead in a carnal sense, even though that's not going to save him, he's still being wise. Okay. Whereas matter of fact, let me go ahead and get this precept in Proverbs 22:3 and the New English translation. All right. And it says, a shrewd person sees danger and hides himself, but the naive keep right on going and suffer for it. You see? And this is why, Jamie Dimon's comments are a further example of that, suggesting that people, mainly in America, should stockpile bullets, which is carnal, and which is going to lead to death, which is not wise counsel at all, at least in a righteous standpoint. Okay, but at least he's in the spirit of understanding that danger is coming. Now, another example is an individual here. I'm going to pull it up. Report on the U.S. Sun entitled "Lights Off." Wells Fargo confirms it will shut down all 5,600 branches. That's not what I wanted. Salakia. Let me see. Yep. So on Business Insider entitled "Internet is in awe of Warren Buffett's perfectly timed cash out." All right. Reported back on March 12th. All right. Around the time of this trade war spat between the U.S. and China intensifying at that time. So it says Warren Buffett is being praised for pairing Apple and stacking cash before the market correction. Social media is full of Buffett quotes about slumping stocks and memes featuring the investor. Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway sold a net $134 billion worth of stocks in 2024 and built a record cash pile. All right. So he had started selling, $1 billion worth of stocks, $134 billion worth. All right. As I mentioned here. Okay. Through his Berkshire Hathaway. All right. Selling $134 billion worth of stocks. Okay. Anticipating, this collapse. Doing an encryptive gesture to the public that something, terrible is getting ready to take place in America, dealing with the financial market, which is going to hit everyone's wallets and further affect everyone. Okay, because money's a defense, as it says in the book of Ecclesiastes. All right, so as they reported that Wells Fargo, that Jake reported on social media that Wells Fargo is shutting all branches. He didn't actually mention that that's really a test run. It says here in the U.S. Sun, lights off, Wells Fargo confirms it will shut down all 5,600 branches for 24 hours in weeks. And Chase isn't an alternative. Okay? Who's the CEO of JP Morgan Chase? Jamie Dimon, who just recently suggested that Americans stock up on bullets and not Bitcoin. Okay? As in cryptocurrency, digital currency. Okay? Meaning what? He's suggesting a shift of mindset. Okay, of an agricultural mindset. Okay, farming. Okay, seeking abundance and prosperity to seeking being in a mindset of survival. Okay, now you have Wells Fargo confirming it will temporarily, quote unquote, shut down all 5,600 branches in 24 hours. Why? Because they claim it's temporary. It says Americans who bank with Chase will similarly be out of luck, as a rival bank will also close its doors for 24 hours. That's not a coincidence. Being that Jamie Dimon, who just recently suggested that American Stockpile Bullets is the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, and this still happens to be the rival bank of Wells Fargo, whereas Chase is also shutting down his doors, following Jamie Dimon's quote unquote warnings to stockpile bullets. So this further confirms these are test runs. All right. So it says the Federal Reserve Bank, the central bank of the U.S., regulates the banking system in a country managing the nation's monetary and financial system. Let me see. The Fed also determines when banking services are available to Americans. The federal institution shuts down all national holidays and most popular banks and credit unions follow suit. The next upcoming closure is on Juneteenth, which became a federal holiday in 2021. Okay, well, why would you have to shut down banks on that day? As if America, Babylon the Great, has ever cared about Jake. It's just another justifiable reason to really just, use these to bring forth these psyops, these test runs. It says the day celebrates the Emancipation Proclamation's enforcement, officially making the end of slavery in the U.S. as the last enslaved African Americans were freed. Wells Fargo is planning to conduct a nationwide shutdown of its 5,600 branches on June 19th in honor of the relatively new holiday. All right, so this is all folly, another smokescreen of Esau, Edom. All right, conveniently through Wells Fargo and Chase shutting down its doors for 24 hours, which is, just further test runs. Okay, so so once again, as Yahushua said, she's going into, comparing and contrasting the difference of using carnal resources in this world to plan ahead. Okay, further, emphasizing that concept of applying the same passion and vigor of using the world's carnal resources to plan ahead. Okay, that the unjust steward was guilty of. Okay, or got overzealous with and became a crook. Okay, becoming, Fred exposed himself as a crook and a covetous niggard. All right, and using that concept of using the world's resources to plan ahead in terms of the kingdom of heaven. Okay, using that same passion and vigor to plan for eternity, the kingdom of heaven. See, and this is the whole concept of the parable of the unjust steward, further exposing the mindset of covetous niggards who get overzealous and using the world's resources and money mainly to plan ahead. Through the example of 401k, once again, the college funds for their insubordinate, entitled children. All right. The stock market and so forth, and using that same passion and vigor to use the spiritual resources to plan for the kingdom of heaven, which is only a luxury for the elect. And this is why those who in the mindset of the unjust steward are going to fail, such as Jamie Dimon and Warren Buffett and everyone who's under that mindset. The vast majority of America, Babylon the Great, outside of the elect of the Israelites who are in America, Babylon the Great, which is the main place for our captivity. See? So, as I said in Jeremiah 51:13, covetousness is the main reason, the main reason why America, Babylon the Great, is going to be destroyed, because those in that covetous mindset are mammon worshipers. Mammon represents fortune. Okay, hence why in the back of the dollar bill, Esau has the acronym God. So on the outside looking in, people think that he's referring to the Most High God, Yahweh, but in actuality, the acronym God it stands for gold, oil, and drugs. Going to its aspirations of, being over, embarking in these different, these journeys over there in these particular lands to exacerbate and exhaust the resources through the gold, the heroin, and the poppy fields, and and the oil, the drugs, the oil, the gold, and so forth. Because Esau is a covetous niggard with a scarcity mindset, meaning he can't have enough. And this is why his empire, indicative of that, his very vile, profane, covetous spirit, America, Babylon the Great, the Golden City, is plummeting. And these insiders such as Jamie Dimon can see the writings on the wall. All right, so this is 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 7. It says, "For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us be therewith content. But they that would be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." And this is really talking about Jake. All right. It does say in Jeremiah, at least Jeremiah the 2nd chapter, that, our people have taught the wicked their ways, such as Constantine the Great, coming up with Jesus Christ. Okay. During the Nicene Council. All right. Another name for, Esau's, Greek idol, Serapis Christus, a composition of the worship of the constellation of stars through Zeus and Jupiter. Okay. Case in point. All right, so it goes on to say here, 1 Timothy 6:11, "But thou, O man of the Most High God, Yahweh, by Shem Yeshai, flee these things, and follow after righteousness, godliness, faith, love, patience, meekness." Okay, why? Because it says in 1 John 2:15, the love of the earth, the love of the world is not of the Father, including the love of money. Okay, which your love of the money is of mammon worship. This is 1 Timothy 6:12. "Fight the good fight of faith, lay hold on eternal life, whereunto thou art also called, and hast professed a good profession before many witnesses." Because the people that lack the vision of eternal life are going to be fighting for these resources. Pursuing the 2nd Ezra 15, verses 16 and 19. Okay. Through the sedition amongst men, all right, violent uprisings against wicked, corrupt governments. People are going to be putting each other to death in the midst of civil war, breaking into each other's homes. Prophesied in 2nd Ezra 15, okay, around the 19th verse, okay. And this is part of what Jamie Dimon was talking about, anticipating, because he's an insider. Okay, so this is St. Matthew 16 and 24. It says, "Then said Yahushua unto his disciples, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. All right. It says, and Shalom to Akim on the comment board, brother Amraya, the brother Damawati Yalbai Shimi Shabrakatham, Wata Wata for tuning in. St. Matthew 16:24. Then said Yahushua to his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it. And whosoever will lose his life for my sake shall find it. Okay, so people are going to be looking to save their carnal lives. Okay, such as fighting for the, holding on to the resources. Okay, through stockpiling bullets, as Jamie Diamond had mentioned. Okay, because they see America, Babylon the Great is the end all be all. Okay, it says in Proverbs 29:18, where there is no vision, the people perish, as in the vision of the kingdom of heaven. And that's the vast majority of this world, mainly in America, Babylon the Great. St. Matthew 16:26, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul? A lot of people sell their souls out for money, especially in Hollywood. Mainly, impoverished jakes are not used to anything. So they, Esau exploits them through their talents, whether it be in the sports aspect or musical aspect. And they sign their names in a dotted line. They're signing their souls away to Satan. This is why Prince ended up changing his name to the symbol, because he had caught on, but catching on too late. Okay, so that's why they took out Michael Jackson, because he was exposing the same thing, how these devils exploit their artists. Okay, so I think he's about to sell all of his he's about to sell his Sony catalog or something like that, and then Esau, understanding Michael Jackson's worth, assassinated him. Case in point, because once again, this is the mindset of Esau's covetous. This is the covetous mindset of Esau Edom. So those who fall after his satanic counsel under his vibration are going to be in the spirit of, fighting for the carnal lives, or including fighting for the carnal money they have on this side. Okay, which are going to burn up. This is St. Matthew 16:27. For the Son of Man shall come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works, whether it be of righteousness, fighting for the kingdom of heaven, by storing up their spiritual treasures in the heavens, in the spiritual realm, our spiritual bank account, or reaping the reward, for investing in America, Babylon the Great, being naturally carnally minded. Case in point, because a reward is not always a good thing. Case in point. So in this spiritual warfare, there's going to be a reward for the righteous, as in salvation, and a reward for the wicked is going to be death. So I'm going to go ahead and end it off on a note. Pray these lessons for the edifying and exhorting to elect, and give all praises, glory, infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom is the God of the living, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barach, Wadash. Forgive me the spirit to do this lesson. So I pray for the edifying and exhorting to elect. With that, once again, double honor to the apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone for teaching and ruling well. And shalom, honors and salutations to Bayasha Dawadah, the house of David, of the one-third elect men, of the one-third elect remnant of the nation of Israel, along with the rest of the one-third elect men, women, and children of Israel. All right, shalom. Labachayim Shah Bayasha Dawadah, Shah Yasharala, meaning peace to the elect of the house of David of the nation of Israel. And on to the next one.